Ready? And if I could do this as a puppet, I'd really be down with it. And we've talked about it, but I've had people tell me I can't do it that way. But anyway, it's... You didn't tell me that. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Grandma's Attic Music Review. Things are a little different today. You're not going to see someone playing instruments. We're going to talk about music, the history of music, the way music's made, and what makes people want to take a little bit of a different track when it comes to the reality of music production, recording, engineering, that whole thing. It's a whole different aspect of the music world. And some of the musicians, well, a lot of the musicians that have recorded in the studio that we're going to talk about have been on this show. So anyway, I would love to introduce you to my guest today. Riverway Studios is his studio, and I'm going to mess up his name. Ira Sakolsky. Slap me. Sakolsky. You know I could mess up a wet dream, so whatever. Anyway, we have Ira in the house with us, and we're going to talk. And Dipsy's on too. Hi, Ira. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries.
I told you I'm so bad with names.
Yeah, no worries.
I think the only name I ever get right anymore is Terry LaChance, and I got that wrong for years.
Happens.
And we'll talk about her later. Welcome to Grandma's Attic. It took me a long time to, number one, get to you, but convince you to come on my show. Why?
I was very much forward in my career for a very long time, and I started to go a little more behind the scenes. So I guess there's a shyness about it for me that, I don't know, I don't know. I'm not sure why.
But you're an incredible musician.
Thank you. I've always just done what I would like to do, and just kind of set my heart on my heart and what makes me happy. And I've been fortunate, to be able to support that with people and being involved with the things I like to do.
So let's go to the very beginning. When do you remember first hearing music that actually made your brain say, I like that, I want to know more about that?
I was a specific moment. I was 2 years old, and I was at my Aunt Laura's house, and she had a little baby grand piano.
Nice.
And I just remember going over to the keys, which were like up to here on me.
Right.
And I just remember them encouraging me, my aunt, my dad, my mom, oh, you can hit the key if you want, you can, like give me permission. So I just remember hitting one key, and it was like, oh my God, the sound just went through me, and I was mesmerized. I guess that was the first memory of music.
That's so cool. So did you from there learn to play the piano?
My parents gave me guitar lessons when I was 6.
Okay.
they always had music. They were both music lovers. They sang in choirs. My dad sang with his brothers during the high holidays, Jewish high holidays.
Right.
In the Catskills, they were like a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and my mom
Did they have
sang
like a group name?
the Sakolsky brothers.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, and they were religious in the Jewish religion, so they learned all the prayers. They just would sing.
And they sang the prayers because
sang
a
the
lot of
prayers.
those prayers are sung.
Oh, yeah. The cantor, right. Though, yeah, they could each be a cantor in their own right, I guess.
Neil Diamond was the guy that,
Hey, Bill,
yeah.
can we do this interview?
He got involved.
It's all good. It's all good. So, between the encouragement of your family, including your Aunt Laura,
Yeah, everybody was musical.
everybody was musical, so it was surrounded you, and you played guitar. Did you join a band? Did you have a band when you were like really young?
Well, the guitar lessons ended probably after 3 weeks. Because
Wow, that didn't last very long.
No, because the guitar teacher, I just didn't like the way he smelled. It's a bad.
That's a good thing.
Not a good smell.
If someone doesn't smell good, I don't want to learn music from someone that doesn't smell good.
Yeah, I mean, I was 6 years old, so I had a very, I guess
Did
I
you
had a
tell
very
your
strong.
parents? Did you tell your parents that you thought he smelled bad?
Oh yeah, I told
And
them.
what did they say?
I can't remember. All I remember is the lesson stopped,
Okay.
and then we moved from Queens to Hammerstra, like a suburb of New York. And in band, I guess, what year was that? Maybe it was, oh no, because I was 5th grade, I came into that particular school. And they showed us instruments as part of the thing, like array of instruments.
There's a whole bunch of, right, that
on
was
the
5th grade.
stage, and I was like, oh, there's the
Or
there's the
4th
trumpet, the trombone interests me. But then the drums really took my eye. So I
Okay.
started taking school drum lessons, and I loved it. I had a little snare drum, a Ludwig snare. And then I guess I had an aptitude, so my parents started to give me private drum lessons, and that stuck. So I excelled in that, and the high school band, and there were certain things the band teacher said to me, I want you, we had a lot of drummers, and we had 150 musicians in the school band. It was a big school.
That's a big school
It was
band.
high school, yeah. And they bought me more pieces. I started putting a drum set together. The garage band happened.
Did you have a name for your garage band?
At that point, no. We were like 14, I think. We didn't really have a name at that point. I got into another band in high school, and then we had a name called, first it was Heathcliff. Then we called it, because they were into Gertrude and Heathcliff, one of the band members.
Right.
And then Roadside Diner. We became Roadside Diner. It was a really good band. The guitar player, Mark Cunningham, went on to play with Rick Derringer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were good. Yeah, he's great.
I'm going to get up in a minute. No, so that's cool. So he went on to play with Rick Derringer, and what did you guys continue to do?
Well, we played, it was a cover band, so we played the bars. I was the youngest member of the band, but then I got interested in acting. Well, I was always interested in acting and music. Like those were...
It was in your head,
It was in...
that artistic flow.
Yeah, definitely self-expression and, those two modalities. And then I ended up getting a lead in the high school play, the musical Roar the Grease Paint. And I had this band, and the rehearsals conflicted. So I couldn't do both. So I made a choice at that point to do the acting. And so did the play. I got bitten by the acting bug. Still played music, still had, the band rehearsals I couldn't make. They had to get another drummer. But I kept the music going, the guitar, started writing songs for myself because I picked the guitar back up
Okay.
when I was 16. So I started just writing songs and the drums and the acting. And so I had to make a decision about college, whether I was going to pursue music or acting as a profession. And I remember I was in, the Fantastics. I played the boy's father. And I remember going into the wings after rehearsal thinking, I want to do this as a career. So I started auditioning for acting schools. I wanted to go to SUNY Purchase because they had a conservatory training.
Right.
But I ended up going to New Paltz because I didn't make it into Purchase. I was at the top of the waiting list, but it didn't happen. So I went to New Paltz, really started learning about acting, but I decided I still wanted to go to Purchase. So in my class was Turturro. I don't know if you know Michael Badalucco. He was in a bunch of Coen Brothers films. In college, so there was always a lot of people who were making it later on in life. It was a good group. It was a good school. But I re-auditioned for Purchase, which was a blessing. I got into it. I studied with a great acting teacher, George Morrison, who went to school with, this is all the acting part, right?
Yeah.
This is, went to school with Mike Nichols. Some folks will recognize that name. Paul Sills in Chicago. Paul Sills' mother, Viola Spolin, invented theater games, invented improvisation in the United States.
Okay.
Yeah. So George taught us theater games, but he also studied with Strasberg, the method. So we learned really full on. He really taught us how to act. In my school was Stan Tucci, a bunch of other performers, J.O. Sanders. You know, it was a very reputable school.
J.O. Sanders, that name rings a bell. I don't know why.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. So anyway, I learned how to act. I had music as a minor. I was still writing music. So I'd get into a Shakespeare production, Feste and Twelfth Night, and I always had a guitar around, so the director said, oh, can you write music, you know, for this Shakespeare lyric?
Right.
And so I was like, I'll try. So that was a thing for me. It was like, oh, so I started listening to Renaissance music, and I kind of figured out.
How cool is that?
It was really awesome.
Did you by any chance learn to play the lute because of
did,
that?
yeah.
I knew that was coming.
I did. So the music started coming with me with the acting. And my early acting career, I got a lot of jobs as a musician who could act or an actor who could play music, a lot of work.
That's great.
Oh, it was awesome, because then I could do everything I love to do. I did a score. There's a lot of jobs like that. There was a play called Ian Escapades. Ruby Dee was in it. These are, this is old school.
Yeah, and as it should be. That's where we're starting there, because we're going to come up through the lines.
I gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah. So so I got to score. Well, I got to score a drum score, which was very quirky and fun. I was into Spike Jonze, Murdering the Classics. Yeah. Well, my parents listened to everything. So everything from, at that time, the Beatles to Peer Gynt to, I had a lot of influence musically.
That's great, because kids that are exposed to a wide range of music have it instilled in their mind that there's many levels of every different art.
Right.
It's not all rock and roll, and it certainly isn't all pop.
Oh no, it was literally everything. Jazz, Dave Brubeck, and everything, folk, and I can't think of anything that I didn't listen to.
Do you remember any favorites from your young days? We're going to get into your favorites later on, but in your young days, who were some of your favorites? Did you like classical music?
I loved classical. Yeah, the Peer Gynt was my, I would listen to that over and over again.
Yep.
Night on Bald Mountain, all the tracks from that.
Right. It's a great piece.
Beautiful. Of course, Tchaikovsky, the Nutcracker, all of that, Beethoven, Bach. But I was also into Ozzy Osbourne. Black Sabbath was
Who wasn't?
Great, everything. I guess I always loved, I don't know, it's hard to pick, because each one is like a different flavor.
Right.
You go to Ben & Jerry's, and it's like, oh, today I want the rum raisin, and tomorrow I want the chocolate with the mixed cookie, whatever it is.
Right.
I gravitated, John Fogerty, the classic rock and roll stuff, awesome. So so I ended up getting all these jobs. The Ian Escapade was fun because I was scoring, but also acting. And then, it was right after college where Paul Sills did a show called Story Theater on Broadway with Valerie Harper, Paul Sands, Dick Libertini.
That rings a bell.
Yeah, Paul Sills started the Second City co-founded the Second City in Chicago,
Right.
where everybody came at him and still does, all the way up to Colbert, Jon Stewart.
Yep.
They all studied this approach that Paul's mother invented, Viola Spolin, theater games.
Yep.
It was her approach. So we had an improv group in college. I'm kind of bouncing back a little bit. And we put together this improv group, and we started to perform in New York City because we wanted to. Paul came to one of our shows and hired us to do his story theater show, which was going to be at the Kennedy Center.
Nice.
Yeah, so
I've seen some great shows there.
oh, it's an awesome venue, beautiful. So at that point, I had my guitar and stuff, and he knew I was a musician. So he really taught me how to score.
Really?
Because yeah, brilliant, like genius director who really changed a lot of lives through his work and his mother's work. But when we did the fairy tales, the Grimm's tales, he would say, right here is where you want to put the music. Make up some sort of thing right here. And it really just stuck, like how to score, how to
That
support.
resonated with you in a big
time.
way.
I mean, it brought me back to watching Bugs Bunny when I was, 8
And
years
remembering
old.
when the music,
Well, I would turn the sound off, and I would put on Beatles records and dub. I mean, it was in me already to play with sound that way. Watching, Bugs Bunny sing a Beatles song, it somehow synced in my mind,
that's so fun.
It was really funny.
I want to see that. I want to see Bugs Bunny
yeah.
sing the Beatles.
I mean, early Beatles just turn off the sound, and it kind of syncs up, in my mind anyway at the time. So anyway, I started getting kind of these tips from this master, and that stuck with me. And then the Ian Escapade we did at the Library of Congress, and I created this great score, and that we did a bunch of iterations of. Went to New York with it. Barbara Feldon was in. She'd always pick like somebody who had some good credits to be to nail it down. You need that in show business. So that was great. And then it just kind of continued. Like I would do these acting jobs and play music for a long time. And then what really was the pivot point was the National Theater of the Deaf was coming to New York City. I lived in the city down Soho, and the National Theater of the Deaf was coming in to audition actors. And I saw that they did improv in addition to their main stage shows, and I just loved improv.
Improv is a lot of fun if people know what they're doing.
Well, there's a basic structure to improv.
But not everybody knows
Well,
that.
no, that's the learning. That's what you learn when you study. What it's a who, create a character. It's a what are you doing, an activity. And it's a where, what's the environment. And those are really the pillars of it. Creating a scene. So I remember auditioning for them, and I think I did some Shakespeare monologue, and I made balloon animals or something, like entertainment, right?
Right.
So they were entertained enough to call me back, and I had music credits. They kept asking me about my music credits. They said, are you really a musician? I said, yeah, I am. I said, why do you keep asking me? He said, well, because actors lie on their resume. I was like, no, and they do,
Yeah.
I really do play music. I play drums, I play guitar, I can write some music. So I didn't hear from them. And then I got this job because I was also part of this agency, and I would play parties and stuff, play guitar, or do theater games workshops. So I always had those two. And I had a gig at the American School of the Deaf. And I had no contact with deaf culture. Like even the audition for National Theater of the Deaf, the artistic director, there were two artistic directors, one was deaf and one was hearing. And that was really my first, contact with deaf culture, but not really. They were just watching me audition. So I did this gig at the school with deaf kids. And it was a theater games workshop, and they had an interpreter interpreting what I was instructing. And I just remember feeling so moved by the silence and the communication that was happening in the silence. It was so beautiful. And the signs themselves, I just got captivated by it. And I hadn't, here I did audition for the Theater of the Deaf. I hadn't heard anything. And all of a sudden I got this gig one day. And I was like, this is interesting. And then a month later I heard from National Theater of the Deaf. They said, can you come up to Chester, Connecticut? We want you to read a script. I was like, okay. First time in Chester, Connecticut, driving up from the city. Beautiful. I was like, wow, this is like New England.
A wonderful place.
Like, this is so great. I remember going to the building, which is now a museum, the East Haddam, not the East Haddam, Chester Museum.
Chester Museum.
And that's where we rehearsed, and they cooked for us. Well, the job, I read the script, and they said, what would you do with it musically if you were to write music for it? I went, oh, it was a French farce. I said, oh, Spike Jones murdering the classics, like cartoon music. They went, yeah. Like they got all excited by the idea.
They knew that you knew what you were talking about.
I mean, it was just an idea, that I was reading the script. I was like, oh, that could be something. And so they hired me on the spot to voice for the lead actor. There was like a company, it was show was called An Italian Straw Hat. There were, I think, 8 deaf actors and 3 or 4 hearing actors. And the art form is that the deaf actors play their characters, and the hearing actors dub the words simultaneously while the signs with character voice for the deaf actors. They wanted me to voice for the lead actor, but also write the score and perform the score that I wrote live. And they put me in an Eiffel Tower upstage center. I could put whatever I want in this miniature Eiffel Tower. So I had a keyboard here. They wanted electronic drum pads, so I had to learn that. I bought a computer because I needed to get...
How was it going from playing a real drum set to an electronic drum pad?
It was an adjustment.
I bet.
Yeah, they wanted that because it fit better in this little area that I had in the Eiffel Tower. So I learned it. I learned the module. I bought a computer and software. My friend Robert Fritz used to play clarinet with Dave Brubeck, and he was a composer. So he said, get this, like he told me what to get. And so I bought the equipment, started learning it on my own, and I'd go to rehearsal with a little mini recorder and just watch rehearsal and kind of hum ideas into it as I'm watching. And then I had to get that out of my head and into the software. And
right.
I had to figure it out.
Right.
I didn't go to engineering school, and I didn't go to composition school. I just had it.
Right.
So I started learning the technology, and then I had to perform. I was up. Rehearsals had ended, I was up for hours and hours, creating the score. And then performing it was a whole different animal because, what did I make up that I need to now play live? So that was a process. Everything had sequencers so I could create some rhythmic things that I could play on top of and voice for the lead actor simultaneously.
That's taking on a lot of different hats.
Yeah, all
at
the same time. Yeah, and that's where the theater games came in, because when you play theater games, you have to multitask. Your mind is, you're in the present, but you've got to be able to do a lot of things. And also drumming, it's different. So I already had the wiring.
Sounds like what social workers do.
Yeah, right.
Just saying.
Right, you've got all these things, right?
Right?
Yeah. So I created the score. I played it, and we toured. We toured the United States. It was a very successful show. We toured for 2 years. I went to every state in the country doing the show except Alaska and Hawaii. But we went to 48 states and performed.
Nice.
Yeah, that was my life. I was a touring actor musician for a long time.
2 years is a long time.
Yeah, I mean there were breaks. 6
Right.
months out, and then you come back for a couple months or whatever, and then you go out again. But a bunch of things happened during that time that changed my life. One was writing this extensive score, and the other was I started to fall in love with one of the interpreters at the company. And I'm in New York City, and the second year I was out on the road, but she started writing me little notes. Her name is Monica, and then I remember coming back after that tour. And they wanted me to write music for another show, and they wanted me to tour with it. And I felt like my touring days I was just like, oh, I need to be still. And I was interested to buy a house. My mom had passed away. My dad had passed away. There was enough money to put a down payment on something.
Yep.
So here I am working for the National Theatre of the Deaf, writing music, and interested in this gal, and I can't remember all the logistics of where I lived, but what happened was they gave me a script. Oh, I started dating Monica. They gave me a script, which was an Ogden Nash poem from published in 1956. the same year that The Grinch was published. And it was his story to his grandkids called The Christmas That Was Almost Wasn't. And it was a...
Because of a man named Prune.
Oh,
Right?
there was a musical that was done on it,
There
which I
was.
did not watch.
I own the record.
Oh, there you go.
I had it when I was a little kid.
There you go.
And I couldn't find it. And my friend found it
Wow.
like 2 Christmases ago.
The Christmas That Almost Wasn't.
Right,
Yeah,
because
by
of a
Ogden
man named
Nash.
Prune.
Right. See, I never listened to it because I never wanted to be influenced, and I was fortunate I didn't listen because they wanted me to write a musical based upon this poem
Okay.
of original stuff. So I'm glad I didn't hear it, and I'm still kind of glad I'm not interested to. You can get really easily influenced as like I'm a sponge. I absorb a lot.
I understand, and I can see that in you. So go ahead with your story. We'll talk about the other part of that. It's a big deal because that's a big part of my life.
Oh, okay.
A huge.
Oh, I
part.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah. So essentially, I started with the artistic director, Will Reese, started finding songs in, the poem, rhyming couplets, a 30-minute poem, really, which was beautiful. I mean, the classic good versus evil, story. With the guy trying
Absolutely.
to steal Christmas, the uncle. Evilard was his name, the bad guy. So I wrote this thing, and Will directed it, and we did it at the Chester Meeting House during Christmas season. I forget if we had maybe 2 weekend performances, and it was successful. It worked. Company was great. I loved the actors so much. I'm still friends with many of them. I didn't even tell you, like Troy Kutzer I met. He wasn't in the show, but in the early days, Marley Matlin, all these people, it was great legacy, great history in that company. So then we toured, when we did it again at the Chester Meeting House the second year, and then the administration changed, and I made tapes of these things. Right now I've got a little studio up in my house in a 10 by 10 room because I'm writing these scores, and I've got the drums smashed in one corner, I've got some keyboards, and I'm just making up music for whatever's needed, which was totally new for me.
Right.
And the music was like exploding out of me. I didn't know what I had. I had no idea I had this compositional head and this arrangement head, and I could make ideas up. Guitar songs are one thing, but scoring is like another animal.
It's a whole different level of putting music together.
My parents took me to see Leonard Bernstein, Alice Tully, Lincoln Center, doing Peter and the Wolf, like young audience.
Too.
You saw that?
Yes.
Leonard Bernstein, right?
My mother took myself and my siblings to see that exact same performance. It played for more than a week, though. It was there for a while.
Yeah, that's right. It was like a series.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how cool that you saw that.
Oh my gosh. And the performance was so real, and the music was so poignant. The cat's meow. And oh my gosh,
So you remember
the
that.
whole thing.
I just remember being so moved and so entranced by his description. And this part of the music will be when this happens. And
Right.
yeah.
Right.
When I think back, there were these like moments in time that really informed me, as a composer, as a writer. So the administration changed. I'd made these demo tapes. The new administration heard the tapes, and they had an idea to do a celebrity CD of the show using as a benefit for the theater.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
I never made a CD. I didn't even know, like everything was new.
Right.
So I was like, I knew I could make up ideas, and I knew I had enough confidence to figure out technology or get help.
Yep.
So the producer of that started going after talent, and the artistic director, Will Reese, worked with John Lithgow on that championship season on Broadway. He was a fellow actor, and they were friendly. So he called John Lithgow, asked him to narrate it. And John
What a
Lithgow said,
voice.
sure, I'll narrate that. He was out in LA doing Third Rock.
Yep.
Yeah, so we had to go wherever the artists were. There was a studio up in Canada. There was a famous Canadian guy up there that we worked with. His name, he ended up getting into trouble with the law after this whole project. So I don't want to mention his name, but we went down we did a rap group in DC. We got Josie from Josie and the Pussycats out in L.A. I went to school with Suzy Roach, the Roach sisters. So I asked Suzy to do a little, like we just started pulling on talent.
Right.
We went down to, what's the name of the guy who got, Lou Silver? The Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, whoever was the producer of those down in Florida, Transatlantic Studio. He ended up going to jail. He's still in jail, the guy who signed those guys. But we went to that studio to record these. It was like a factory. There was a 5-girl group and a 5-boy group. So I got to write harmonies, essentially 10-part harmonies, you know.
That were in your head. Were those?
I just made it up.
Do those layer those things in your head? Is that how music happens for you? Because I talk to singer-songwriters all the time, and I say to them, "Do you hear this music in your head?"
Oh yeah.
Now, on one level, I hear the guitar and I hear the melody, and sometimes I hear the harmony. Right. Now, are you hearing 5-part harmonies in your head?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
brilliant, by the way. Everyone, listen to this. This is brilliance. Brilliance. 5-part harmonies in his head that he can put on paper and make people produce it. It's fabulous.
Well, that's a gift. I mean, that, you can develop. I mean, I did. I've done some theory classes, but it's mostly in my head. I mean, I dream music. I remember the melody. I usually have a recorder nearby, so I can capture it. I just have this ability, which really has a force of its own inside. And I mean, Paul McCartney is like, the more I look at his stuff, I mean, they were all brilliant, the Beatles, but he really has this whole other, ability to be able to create. It just blows my mind. As somebody who creates music, and sorry about the mic if I hit it.
No, that's good.
It just, there's certain, like John Baptiste is another one. Like just that level, I think I'm a truck that's fully loaded with all the bells and whistles. And I just feel like I haven't fully realized that, even though I've had a lot of achievements. There's still more to do, to be able to really.
But you're young.
Well, I'm on the other side of that.
So we all have a yardstick.
Yeah.
And the first foot of our life, we're like to our mid-teens. And then we become young people. So our second part of our yardstick is from young people to middle-aged people. Right. And then the last foot of our yardstick is when we're like 40-ish and we have a foot left.
Yeah.
That's when we start counting the inches.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you have a good 12 inches left. Give or take.
Yeah.
Let's not push it.
I mean, I'd like to live till 125 because there's so much.
You better get writing.
There's so believe me, I'm all in the middle of it.
I know you are.
Yeah. So just this story continued to the degree that I made the music for the CD. We recorded it all over the place. We went to this wonderful little behind the parents' house studio. Dave Dunn was the engineer. And in this garage, which he turned into a studio, he had the Wackerman brothers, who are drummers, and there was one of the Wackerman brothers who just refused to tour with 9 Inch Nails, like laying down drum beats.
Right.
I know Janet Jackson was in there. Like, it's so tucked away in this residential area. Nobody knew where it is, which was really smart. Ozzy Osbourne was in there, and I was in there doing recordings. John Lithgow, we did the recording of his voice there. My mom and Steve Stevens from Billy Idol's guitarist, were best friends.
I know who that is.
Yeah.
I had a band that opened for Billy Idol.
Oh, there you go.
I had he tripped over a cord.
Okay.
Are you okay? All right. I had a band that opened for Billy Idol at Toad's Place.
Oh, nice.
So I got to know, like, a little bit.
So, okay.
You okay? Yeah. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, Steve, we would go to their place. We all lived in Queens. I remember Steve, seven years old, with his guitar, taking lessons. And so I reached out to him for this record because I scored it. All the bad guys were like heavy metal, blues, and all the good guys were the symphonic, Christmassy music.
Right. Okay.
So
That makes sense.
So we were out in LA, and Steve lived out there. And so I just reached out to him. I mean, we've been in touch. He used to live down on Bleecker Street, and we'd been in touch throughout our lives. And I just reached out to him. I said, I've got this song I wrote. Would you play on it? And I sent it to him. He says, oh, yeah, I love that. That's a great, So he came in and laid down his stuff. It was so much fun. It was just this explosion because, oh, my God, the stuff that's in my head is now
out there.
Out there, yeah. It was really a miracle and when I think about how things come together. So then we finished the record. We ended up getting a Grammy nomination for the record. It was in the category spoken word with music as the category. So now, so Monica and I, that story, we got together, we got married. I moved up here to be with her because she didn't want to go to New York. And I loved her. I was like, okay.
Right.
I had this nice gig with National Theatre of the Deaf. I had some people starting to ask about recording, in this little 10-foot studio. So, I didn't even know what to charge. I was like, yeah, I have some recording equipment. It was all like on the fly for me, except the writing music was solid. And performing it. And then then the Grammys happened, and it happened in New York City that year because it was after 9/11, and they wanted to let people know it's okay to come back to New York City.
It's okay to come back to the city. I remember all of that.
Yep.
So
let's do it at the Garden to get people in. I remember Monica and I, we got some hotel across from the Garden, and I just remember being there. And at that time, the Dixie Chicks, right, were in front of me, and B.B. King was over there, and I was sitting next to Doc Watson.
Nice!
And I knew Doc Watson
That must
stuff.
have felt amazing.
It was surreal.
To be one of the people that was part of, I have other friends that have been nominated for Grammys. Steve Elsey, do you know Steve?
Oh, sure, Steve, yeah.
He's actually my boss at my day job.
Oh, okay.
And he's actually going to
just
be
kind of the Hall of Fame.
yeah, he's going to be on my radio show tomorrow night with the rest of his new band called Superbald.
Oh.
So yeah,
that's great.
So actually, they were a band from 2000 to 2005. Back when they called themselves kids then, and they'll tell you they sucked. But now they're all accomplished musicians, and they're putting out some serious kick-ass music. I'm really excited about them. So anyway, so that's not a good thing.
Nice meeting.
Anyway, this show. So anyway, you were at the Grammys with all these amazing people, and how did that go?
Well, we didn't win.
No.
Tom Chapin won, and I loved Tom. I met Tom Chapin, and I loved his songs.
I love him too. He's coming to New London like next week.
Yeah.
Like next month.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's great. Yeah,
For Friday Night Folk.
I'm glad he's still at it because he's great. I mean, Jamie Lee. We were against Tom Chapin. Jamie Lee Curtis did a thing. This is like a spoken word for children with music.
Yep.
Who else? Jamie Lee. I think did Seinfeld had something, and Disney had something. Monsters Inc. Was up.
Yep.
Tom Chapin and us. Tom Chapin won, which was awesome.
Right.
I mean, it was just a...
He's incredible.
He's wonderful. It was just a thrill. Like, I wasn't expecting, I hadn't, my eyes weren't set on any kind of targets like that. It was just about creating music, for the love of that and the sake of that. And all these things started happening, which was very profound.
Don't you think that... Let me stop you for a minute and get some interviewing questions in here. Don't you think that the minute that you take your eye off from making music just to make music and start looking for, let me use that word, the prize, that you lose touch with the reality of why you actually make music?
Yeah, your focus shift. If your focus shifts to that doesn't have as much power for whatever reason. Robert Frost said it in a quote, all the great things are done for the sake of themselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't care what people's God, higher power, universe, whatever, the Creator gave us the ability to have gifts like what you have. And we're supposed to do them because of the gift.
Yeah, that's right.
Not because we want this or money or power or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, that's
we
it.
need to do what we do because we've been called to do it. Called for me to give the ability to musicians to promote themselves, to give people like you with your beautiful studio the ability to put music down so everybody can hear it, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's it.
The minute we take our eye off the soul, the spiritual purpose of what we're supposed to do,
Right.
we lose the ability to do it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can create things if you focus on fame and money, but there's usually an oscillation that happens because it's not a pure focus. You know, I mean, do I think about money? Do I think about, having a bigger platform? Yeah, but it's not the driving force. And I've been very fortunate and graced in a way to be able to create what's in my head. And a lot of times in collaboration to help the vision of something, have it, people want it enough to pay for it. I mean, there's a lot of platforms. I mean, to jump, the North Pole Express for the Essex Steam Train.
I was going to get to that, but you can go there.
Well, because it's all about making something that's so lovely and loving and rich in spirit and connective that people want to be involved with it.
It sells out every year.
That's. I had a wonderful mentor. I had a lot of great mentors, but Robert Fritz was one of them who really codified the creative process and the purity of that.
Yep.
And to the point where, if you have a creator, imagine like a box there, creator wanting to create things, and you have another box next to it, creation, and the creator's focused on the creation in and of itself, that's a very simple arrangement, right?
Right.
But a lot of times there's an arrow going from the creation box back to the creator wanting a return on investment, which could be money, fame, and it's a more complicated process when it's that way.
Well, in the commercial world, it certainly is.
Yeah. I mean, there's secondary choices. Like I was thinking, like, some of the music is secondary to me now. It's not as primary as it was, because I'm wanting to apply music to new things.
Right.
There's a cartoon, animated music video I'm making of the opening song I wrote for the North Pole Express. I've loved cartoon. I love.
It's a thing. It's been a theme throughout your life.
Yeah, right. It's always been there. So now I'm bringing that element of animation, and the song's already written. I don't have to write the song, and everybody really likes the song a lot. It opens the whole Christmas show. But I want to take it into animation. And
So are you doing that digitally, or are you having someone draw those, or are you drawing those?
Well, I have somebody. I also draw, but
How did I know that?
but
Go ahead, Ira.
but-
You take it away.
but I hired somebody because it's going to take me a very long time, to take my drawing into a digital mode, because this is all in digital mode.
Right.
But I have a brilliant. I'll just give her a shout out.
Absolutely.
Catherine Williams, daughter of John Williams, is also a wonderful creator. And Catherine is brilliant, and she knows the technology, but she also knows I'm interested to learn the drawing technology. So we have she's coming up with gorgeous stuff. We're 35 seconds into a second draft on the cartoon. It's about a 3-minute song. It takes a very long time.
Oh, it does. Just for an example, Disney knew what he was doing when he decided to hire many people to draw his cartoons, not just him, but take his ideas and make many people put them all together.
Ube Iwerks, his first collaborator who drew the Mickey Mouse.
Right.
Yeah.
Who doesn't the original Mickey Mouse turn there's an age on the copyright.
Oh, it's already
that
out there. The copyright is,
It's over.
yeah, it's over. Yeah.
So people can do whatever they want.
And they are. There's already things in Mickey
bad.
Mouse. Yeah. You know, that's
They
that's
did
what we
they
did.
did it with Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. Though I'll say the Winnie the Pooh ride at Disney World is a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, but the Winnie the Pooh, the horror movie, was horrible. I
Yeah,
mean, I
yeah.
didn't even go see it because I can't wrap my brain.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested to see
Yeah.
that. But, you know, it's people create,
So anyway,
right?
you're 30 some odd seconds into a 3-minute.
Second draft, there's going to be definitely like 4 or 5 more drafts of just the beginning because it's a layering, you know, it's a layering process.
Right.
You know, he invented the multi-plane camera, Walt Disney did, and
Right.
now we've the technology, you know, Lucasfilm, I mean, all those guys, Apple, all those guys are
Pixar.
geniuses. Right, all of that, you know. So it's a beautiful form that now you can do a flat cartoon, you could do a multi-textured, you know, all in the digital realm. So I'm fascinated, you know, by that process. I have a cartoon short film I'd like to make. I'm not going to say what it is right now, but
you
I want to
will.
draw it, you know.
Nice. So we've gone from you hitting a note on a keyboard
Right.
to playing guitar and not wanting to learn because he smelled bad, right?
Good memory.
To playing in a band in high school and leaving that, going off to college, ending up at the School of the Deaf and becoming this Grammy-nominated artist. And now we're going even more in depth and starting to put music to the cartoons in your head. But let's skip back for a minute.
Sure.
Because you have a studio that has invested time into other people's music. How does that make you feel?
Oh, happy.
Yeah. You have the wherewithal because your brain plays 17 levels of music at the same time. Well, you had 20. If you had harmonies for 5 boys and 5 girls, you've got, you know.
I'm not sure about how the math breaks down, but sure, a bunch.
A bunch. See, but not everybody has that brain.
No.
So when you let's take name someone other than our friend Terry. Move away from Terry and tell me some of the people that have given you inspiration, that have come into your studio and brought their music to you and said, I want to do this, and you said, okay, but let's do this.
Oh, okay. Oh gosh, there's so many. Roseanne and Mike Gowdy, husband and wife. He actually is the music teacher at a school. I think it's either an elementary or junior high or something, or maybe it's a high school. And I think she works in the medical field, but they could easily fully do music. Like, she's got an amazing voice. They write together. They came in with these songs that were so well arranged, like he's got that head too,
Yep.
and she's got her own, you know, complement to that with him. But I was able to. There's a lot of bands are coming to mind now that I've.
But that's
been
good because we
inspired
can
by.
talk about that.
Yeah, so we recorded I think 5 or 6 songs, and you know they were open to my ideas. There was so much already done, but I was able to hear stuff that, you know, in the moment, that's how it works, right? Oh, what would happen if we did it this way, or we added this effect, or if we shaped it? You know, it's like sculpting with sound.
Right.
It's really what it is, you know, and knowing what the technology can do and being able to handle the technology. So they were very inspiring. They're going to come back and do another song, but they want more of my arrangement input, which I'm thrilled about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because they got a taste of it. It was like a taste.
So maybe they should do that. Just let me put it out there, and come here and play, and we'll talk about that new album.
Yeah. Well, he can hold it down, and she can hold it down. So
let me just put that all together.
Yeah.
Talk about
I don't
their
know
new
if this will
album.
be an album. Might be a single. You know, they may just focus on singles at this point. But at any rate, I know they're coming in. And we're going to have a real session to create more arrangement stuff, and then we'll switch to the recording part. He'll probably record a bunch of stuff. I don't know what. It's open-ended at this point.
That's great, though.
Which is fun, yeah.
That's the way creativity should be, is open-ended.
Oh, yeah, it's really fun. You know, some artists have their own, like, I worked with, it was called Shiny Lapel Trio. Tiger Marion was the guitar player.
I know them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, great musicians, really great, really fun. But they were very firm about what sound that, like, and that's fine. Like my job was more for them execute like an engineer, pure engineer, executing their vision, and it was fun. We did 2 or 3 albums together, and then he kind of retired, and then the group became Java Groove with some of the players.
Yep.
They came in and did a demo, which is fun. As far as being able to contribute, there's a group called Driving Route 9.
I know them too.
And
You forget, I'm here in Connecticut.
Yeah, you got all the scoop. Yeah, right. There's another one coming to mind too that's out of Connecticut as a contrast. But yeah, that was really hands-on in helping to shape things. And we ended up going to Ireland because they wanted an authentic Irish flute player and an authentic Irish fiddler.
They didn't think they could import one.
Well, we went because also his family, Barry's family, has a place on Northern Ireland. It's a family place.
Nice.
It was an amazing trip. So this is a wild story. Who is the Beatles engineer? Oh God, he wrote the book. Starts with an E. Oh my God, everybody should know his name. The Beatles engineer, Jeff Emmerich.
You knew that wasn't going to come out of my mouth.
Jeff Emmerich.
With the way I am with names, you know better.
I started trying to research studios in Ireland so we could record and, look up. And this was a 2-part process. I was on Facebook, and all of a sudden I see Jeff Emmerich on Facebook. And I knew who he was. I read his book.
Right.
And I was like, oh. And so I put out a friend request. He must have just gotten on Facebook. So he accepted my friend request, and I sent him a message.
See, but by this time you were already someone in the music world. You had already made a name for yourself. You had already dealt with a
credentials,
Grammy.
Yeah.
You already had done things to make people be aware of who you were, the ability that you had, the talent and the gift that you had. There's so much more to just talent. You have a gift that you have been giving away. So I would be willing to bet,
maybe
had a clue who you were.
Maybe. All I know is that he said he would look into it, like studios in Ireland, which was like, thank you. And then shortly after, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days, I was in New York with some of my college mates. And one of them, Joe Verhouse, he said, what are you up to? I said, well, I'm going to Ireland, but I'm looking for a studio. And his daughter's boyfriend was a producer and a musician in Dublin and knew everybody.
Well, there you go.
So he said, I'll connect you with Ian. So I reached out to Ian across the waves, and he said, oh, I know a great guy who plays Irish flute. Alan. And I said, oh, he says, yeah, he played on the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. I was like, oh, and he's got his own studio. Let me reach out to him. Reached out to him. Then I reached out to him, and he said, yeah, come on down, come on. So now we had this guy. Right. We had his studio. Of course, he knew, a great Irish fiddler. So flew into Dublin. The recording was going to be last on the trip, and I think we were there for like 12 days or something like that.
Nice.
And the first thing was, I rented a car. I had to drive on the other side
of the road,
which I never did, but I kept picturing it in my mind. Yeah, I took out all the insurance. I was like, okay, if I'm doing this, I better cover
do it right.
butt. So then I remember I drove up to Northern Ireland and met Barry and his now wife. And Becca, and we hung out. His daughter was there with her friends, and we just hung out by the Irish Sea. It was a dream. And then after a bunch of days, we went down to Dublin to record, and oh my God, Alan, what a player. I had sent him all the tracks because we had, the drums and the rhythm. He just had to lay on top of it, his track, and then the fiddler's track, whose name I can't remember, was a very unique, unusual name, but she was great. And we captured the tracks, and then we came back. So I had a lot of collaboration on arrangements with them, which was just, I loved it. It was, and they were very nice to me in terms of giving me credit for helping to shape the early stuff.
Right.
As co-producer and engineer, all the other hats I wore. So yeah, that was a fun one.
It feels to me like you've had a life that you didn't dream of. Like you've had the kind of life that you never could have dreamt about having.
No,
that
not
has
this
been
part.
given to you by whatever God there is. And you've been able to take this wonderful gift that you have and give it back to people. Now I'm going to move to my friend, Terry.
Oh, Terry, yeah.
Because I've met hundreds, maybe even thousands of musicians. I've been working with musicians for decades, literally 40 years, easily. And she's probably the most prolific songwriter I've ever met. I've never seen anyone write 4 or 5 songs a day.
She's in Vietnam. She just wrote 2 more songs.
2 more songs. I know. I know.
Right.
Now, being honest, not every single one of her songs is a hit. But she's got some songs that belong mainstream.
Yeah, she's in a process now, which is great. She's wanting to get more commercial stuff, which is an adjustment for her.
Right.
Coming from the modality and mindset. And she joined Taxi. I suggested she join it. And she's getting feedback, which is going to help her. And she's open to it. And my mind is opening up too, because she had her style, and I was hands off except for a couple songs, because there's a purity to what she does, and
There really is.
She's also had her stuff manipulated in a way she didn't like. So I was like, I'm going to be hands off. But now she wants more of that kind of feedback, melodic feedback, chord feedback. I've always had the ideas, but I leaned back with her. But now she's evolved to a place,
right,
which is fun. Yeah.
Watching her grow and knowing your brain the way that I know it now, even more so. So let's talk about because we're going to run out of time, which happens to me all the time. People were worried that we wouldn't be able to talk for an hour.
Oh, okay. I don't have any problem talking.
Yeah, right. So where can people find you if they want to talk to you about your studio and recording there? Where can people find you?
Sure. Well, they can call me directly, which I'll just say the number 860-614-2112. 860-614-2112. You could do Ira at riverwaystudio.com.
Ira at riverwaystudio.com.
Right.
And he gave you his phone number.
Right. And Facebook, if you go to Facebook, just put in, Facebook/Riverway Studio, one word, and then you'll see. You can reach out through there.
And people can find you and come and have your expertise, which is amazing. Are there places that people can find some of the stuff that you've put out, some of the stuff that you've created? Is there a platform that any of your stuff is really on?
I mean, the usual, Spotify, the Christmas That Almost Wasn't is somewhere out there, Spotify app, probably all the digital platforms. Terry's stuff is, Driving Route 9 is, Old Dog New Trick is.
We didn't even talk about them.
Yeah,
there's so
lot.
many.
Yeah,
there's so many.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the National Theater of the Deaf. That stuff is, the Christmas Almost Wasn't there. The North Pole Express, I haven't really put that stuff out there because right now there's an exclusivity with the Essex.